They were ready for me to have a stroke or a seizure. And they were like, okay, you're gonna go to the OR now. And I said, wait, we have to stop and pray.
Dr. Griffith basically explained to us, your organs are shutting down. The only way I can do anything is to save your life is to take this child, even though he's only at 27 weeks. So that's when people started praying, yeah.
In 2013, Neil Lorio and his wife Angela were thrilled to be pregnant with their first child, Jean-Paul. But on Palm Sunday, Angela became seriously ill. Neil rushed her to the hospital.
We were about 20-minute ride normally to the hospital. We got there in about 6 minutes. They went to take her blood pressure. They couldn't do it with the machine. They had to do it with by hand, and it was 200 over something, and that was very scary.
Angela was diagnosed with HELP syndrome, a condition similar to preeclampsia that put her life and the life of Jean-Paul at risk.
If preeclampsia goes on to become much more severe, then it can end up in HELP syndrome, and that stands for hemolysis, elevated liver enzymes, and low platelets. It can be a high rate of dying from this condition for women, and obviously for the baby that they're carrying. And so I did have this conversation with both of them to let them know that we will need to go forward to deliver Jean-Paul.
I just turned it over to God, because if something happened to me, what would happen to Jean-Paul?
I didn't know how I was going to take care of this child myself, so I was just praying that she was going to pull it through.
Jean-Paul was delivered via cesarean section. He weighed just 1 pound, 12 ounces. Still, the life of mother and child hung in the balance.
They didn't know until his routine 10-day cranial ultrasound that the ventricles in his brain were large and building up with spinal fluid. In addition to that, he wasn't breathing. He wasn't getting the oxygen that he needed. And I was discharged on Good Friday, which we now know was too soon. I was swelling so much, I had to actually go to a jeweler and have my wedding ring cut off. And it was Easter Sunday, early in the morning. So we went back to the emergency room, and they had to take some fluid off and put me on an IV.
Angela slowly began recovering. She now turned her attention to helping her son, who desperately needed surgery.
He could not be extubated. He had to stay on the ventilator. They said, let's try. I said, can we give him one more chance before he goes into surgery to get a trach? And when he was on my chest, he was literally clawing up my chest because he couldn't breathe. And I said, how soon can he have that surgery?
Jean-Paul struggled in the NICU unit of the hospital, his mother constantly by his side.
I didn't leave, and it was those little miserable half sofas in the NICU that I had that they let me stay, thank God. It was heartbreaking because he was in an isolette and I couldn't touch him. Unless he was having a good day, I couldn't even hold him.
Angela and her community of faith prayed for Jean-Paul's survival and a successful surgery.
Although it was heartbreaking, after that, he thrived. He gained weight. It was miraculous. Even the look in his eyes, you could see the look in his eyes. He's like, okay, I can breathe.
5 months and several surgeries later, Jean-Paul was ready to go home.
Then I actually saw him for the first time with nothing on his face. There were no stickers, there were no tubes in his mouth or in his nose. And I saw his face. It was God looking back at me. To be able to see that after seeing him suffer for so many months. And also his neurologist, she said, you know what? He's gonna make it. And I knew I could take that to the bank.
I absolutely believe prayer was a factor here. I pray before procedures or surgeries on any of my patients, and in this case, we prayed openly together. And I believe that the hand of God was with us while we were going through this, and continues to be with Jean-Paul.
Although he has some developmental delays, Jean-Paul is growing and thriving today. His parents thank God for the gift of life they see in their son every day.
We didn't know if he could walk. We didn't know if he was going to be able to talk. And now, having him run and jump, I just ask God, how? I just can't believe it, even though it's been almost 9 years.
Just as she sees Jean-Paul as a miracle in her life, that happiness and joy comes back to so many others that he encounters. And it's a constant reminder of God's presence in this world. And I'm continuously impressed with Angela and her ability to look at everything through the lens of the goodness that God gives us every day.
This is a story that God wanted to happen so he could get the glory out of it, and he could show what people of faith can do.
Our churches, our friends, people all over the country were praying. That's why we made it through, and we cannot praise him and thank him enough by our lives.